Are things about to get a lot better in Marvel Strike Force? There's a massive meeting next week with the devs of Marvel Strike Force and the leaders of the Players' Voice movement, the group that's been responsible for advocating for the MSF community for a while now. And this meeting could shape the future of Marvel Strike Force as we know it. And today, I'm meeting with the leaders of the Players' Voice group. We're discussing the latest developments, including the 45-page manifesto that they just submitted to the devs and the results they're expecting from next week's meeting. And if you're ready for all of that, Valley Club, then you know what to do. Find that like button and let's go smash it.
ValleyFlyin.
Hello, Valley Maniacs. Welcome back to the ValleyFlyin channel. I am ValleyFlyin. Hope you're having a great day. In this video, we are talking about all the latest developments in the Marvel Strike Force Players' Voice movement, which is designed to give the players a voice in the future direction of Marvel Strike Force. And we have the leaders to discuss everything that is going on. We got some exciting developments. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button for more great Marvel Strike Force content. There's at least 5 Marvel Strike Force videos per week on this channel. But without further ado, let's get in and talk with the leaders of the Players' Voice movement, and we have 3 of them joining us here today. All right, so this is who we have joining us with us today, the leaders of the MSF Players' Voice movement. We have Beta Ray Bill, who, as you can see, is a top player in the game right now. Beta Ray Bill, you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us your current experience in Marvel Strike Force.
Sure. So I've been playing, obviously, for quite some time, and am in the Pants of Hulk cluster, and yeah, I mean it's been an interesting journey, but the movement, the appeal of the movement, and why I'm involved here is that there's a lot of things that we believe need to change in supporting the community better and the player experience better, and so the movement was pulled together as a way to facilitate a bi-directional planning and communication between the player base and Scopely, and I'm happy to participate in part of setting that and helping to engage all levels of game players in this process, because everybody needs to have a voice.
We do, and there's been so many silent voices playing MSF for so long. I'm glad you guys are organizing this. Evdog, you're the first one that came to me with the announcement of this. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself. What are your current thoughts on Marvel Strike Force, and what else do you hope to get out of this Players' Voice move? What kind of change do you hope to see in Marvel Strike Force?
All right. So, Evdog, of course, I'm leader of Mutiny, playing the game forever as well. We like Beta said, we came together because we saw so many players leaving, so many cornerstones of the community, influencers, CCs leaving the game, and we felt we had to do something to change the direction of the game that we love. We had direct contact with the devs through the player experience server that's been there for quite some time, sort of operates like the Envoy program. And we decided it would be a good idea to expand that and bring in other players that weren't being heard, but we couldn't necessarily bring them into that server. So we created our own, and we started bringing back the information to that server.
Nice. Now, Sevi, tell a little bit about yourself. You're one of the co-leaders of the MSF Players' Voice movement. What are some of the latest developments that's going on right now with the Players' Voice movement and the communication that you guys have had with the devs?
So I run the WPF Collective. I've been playing for a while as well. Ev managed to talk me into being co-lead on this movement, and what we're looking to do right now is that we have this state of the game report. We have, gotten all of the feedback from the community on, and we're prepared to hand that over to the devs today as our final draft. From there, we are looking to do a hashtag movement to show community support for this, to really reinforce to the devs that the community wants to see this change. They want to have more of a say in the direction of the game, and that they're not happy with the direction that the game is going in currently. Beyond that, we're hoping to have more dialogue with the devs in regards to that as well.
Nice. All right, so this is a draft of the letter that went out. Now, the devs have seen a draft of the letter. The final version is going out today. Some of the key issues here in this executive summary. It's a very long letter. I'm going to post a link if you guys do want to see this, but it's about a 45-page document here. Some of the key issues here: communication. At a number of instances, late or limited communication and transparency. Better communication, transparency would help with the concern, direction of bugs, compensation, etc. Communication is reactive in approach. Next problem is problems abound almost daily in the game, varying degrees of significance. And these are probably about the bugs. Far too often, events going live inaccurately, blogs being published with wrong information, key dates completely missed. I think a lot of the events that went on during last season's month-long milestone event had their dates changed as well. And player burnout, uncertainty, concern everywhere. Players at a crossroads. Should they keep playing? Should be more casual? Should they quit? What was the response that the devs initially gave you to the drafts that you guys were submitting to this final letter to them, Beta Red Bill?
I think one of the interesting responses was one of the main contacts that we feed this information through was, I'd say, apprehensive that because of the length and scope of the document, that it was actually going to be digested by Scopely. And in fact, what we found is that they've been very much digesting it in depth, and that they want to have a follow up with us next week with a lot of the key decision makers of the various aspects of the game. And so I think that's a key important fact, that this wasn't just, cursory brushed over, that in fact that they're taking these concerns as valid, and that they want to work with us on a path forward and how we can solve a lot of these issues.
That's pretty exciting. Now, who is going to be attending this meeting with the devs, and as far as their side and your side?
So what I can say is I know from their side, it's they have what's called a players experience team.
Okay.
And so there's going to be that team. We suspect, or we're expecting, that the community management team will be there. So that's, Cerebral Archangel folks. And we're expecting potentially key decision makers over various game modes. So whoever's in charge of Alliance Wars, for example, whoever's in charge of character development.
Oh, nice.
Those kinds of aspects. So I think that's an important aspect, because those are the people that can influence things from functionality to timelines to everything that this really tries to address. I think the biggest thing that we're hoping out of this is we're not expecting immediate change on things, but that we're expecting that this is a players council that comes out of this, that represents all levels of gameplay, and that they are engaged with these same key decision makers going forward on an ongoing basis, so that we can proactively work with them on their ideas, and maybe even ideas that come from the community, to see those things come to fruition in a positive light within the game, as opposed to being surprised down the road with something that people are not excited about.
Evdog, who's going to be attending it for your side next week? Is it going to be the three of you? Is there more members of the community, more alliance leaders? And what are some of the concerns that you want to relate to them? Is it about specific game modes? I mean, you have these three key points right here. What are some of the other messaging that you want to get across to the devs?
Well, it will just be us three, because I think the initial meeting will be under NDA in terms of, it won't be anything official. I think the meeting is more so that they can get an idea of exactly what we want, because the first dev letter we gave them, they came back with the responses that they thought would satisfy us, and we're kind of surprised that we weren't satisfied.
Yes.
And yeah. And they were genuinely surprised, and I think they've taken the extra step this time to make sure they understand the spirit of what we're trying to do, which is why they want to meet with us first before they make those decisions. As far as what we'd like to see, when people go through the document, on the conclusion page were 4 or 5 things that we found to be repetitive over and over, such as quality assurance, bottlenecks, especially gold and T4 and stuff like that, release cadence, and the players council. And those are the immediate things that we would love to see them address. We think if they can address those things immediately, we can gain a little bit. We can change community sentiment enough to settle it down so that they could wait for other changes. Because as it stands right now, it feels like every week people are quitting, and it's not because of one thing going wrong. It's just every time something goes wrong, it's a breaking point for somebody else.
Yeah.
and we have to change that in order to get to the place where this game feels good for everybody.
This seems like a pretty major step. We have you guys meeting with the devs next week. We've had a few different movements in the past, the Save MSF movement, the Fix MSF movement. Got a little traction with that, but nothing this long. This has been going on for months and months and months. You guys got a meeting with the devs. What is different about this one? Why have you guys gotten so much more organized than some of the previous movements in the past that have tried to help Marvel Strike Force?
I think it's the way that we're trying to communicate with the Scopely dev team. We're not trying to go in all torches and pitchforks and demand that they give us exactly what we want, or we quit. We're going in and trying to be more of a collaborative mindset here and say, hey, these are the things that we're seeing are wrong. We have all of these people that are behind us. We want to keep this game going, and we're trying to keep it really more of a positive. I mean, as the bugs have continued to roll out, some of the tone of the server has gotten a little bit negative, but it's mostly stayed positive. And I think that is something that kind of helps. And that's something that we've heard from our contacts as well, is that they definitely appreciate that we're not going in with threats. We're not going in, trying to bring a baseball bat to the first meeting.
Yeah, I think some of the words like the previous movements were leave 1-star reviews, quit the game, don't spend any money, and those didn't really work. I think the approach you guys are using is a lot better, and seems like it's going to be better for long-term success.
It's also really hard to coordinate a spending strike. I mean, I think last time that happened, one person spent, and then everybody got mad at everybody else, and it just blew up. And it's really hard to control everybody in the game. So what we're asking for is individual buy-in for the whole collective good. We're not saying everybody has to do it, but we would like your help, Yeah,
I think one of the big things, you guys have a lot of polls on that server. How many people are in that server right now, Beta Red Bill?
I think it's almost 5,600 people now representing some 500 or so alliances. So it's a pretty broad representation, and I think to your question, I think that's one of the things that differentiates this too, is that in past ones, like Sevi was saying, they would try to do these all or nothing kinds of approaches to getting Scopely to come to the table, and it actually would turn the community against itself in some regards.
Yes, I remember that.
Right, and so that's kind of a big problem. You can't have the children being eaten by the parents, and so you need to find a way positively to do that. And while we're all frustrated with these issues, I know you were mentioning earlier today when we were chatting the cookie cutter approach of the game right now, and that's a very frustrating issue that a lot of people are having. Really started with the Apocalypse sagas, and now it's continuing forward with the way Crucibles are being run. And so it's important to get everybody to focus on these are the issues we all want to solve collectively together, and so let's not fight with each other about these. Let's work together, and let's get Scopely to come to the table in a positive way, and let them hear what are the good things, and how can we encourage them to continue to do those, and how can we get them to fix the things that are not good.
What are some of the major things you would want to see fixed, Abdog? Obviously, you guys are going to go with a lot of input from the community and do what the community wants. Personally, what are some of the things that you would want to see fixed in Marvel Strike Force? Like you guys were talking about, for me, is the cookie cutter approach. I like the theory crafting in year one. What do you want to see change, though?
I think the bottlenecks at every turn is a huge thing. I think if I do understand the need. It is a business to bottleneck something, but I mean, there's no part of this game that doesn't have a bottleneck for somebody. I think that they need to balance that a little bit more.
So it's not just the smaller players that are feeling this crunch. It's the larger players, the larger alliances as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone.
All right, so it's not just me. Okay.
No, we just experienced different bottlenecks at different points.
Right.
But ultimately, with the things we experience, you will experience soon enough. So it definitely affects everybody.
Sevi, what would be something that you would want to see as a result of this meeting? What kind of change would you want to see?
I would like to see some quality of life changes. I run my own alliance. I run I think the largest collective in the game as far as alliance count is concerned. And quite honestly, it's like a second job. Like they need to fix, the things that Ev and Bill were talking about, but to get recruiting back on track, because recruiting is terrible. But trying to run an alliance and manage 20. I honestly, me neither.
I can't even keep up with blitz rotations. I don't know how you do that and run a whole alliance, a whole cluster.
It's a lot of work.
It's a very thankless job.
It is. Like a lot of people we're seeing a lot of leaders get burned out. When your leaders get burned out and there's not other people to take over, that's when alliances disband and people quit.
Yeah. I think we said that in the document. I think leaders are the most understated commodity in the game. Nobody really wants to do it. And a lot of times when these alliances fall apart, it's not because 24 players don't want to play. It's because 2 leaders are tired of leading and nobody wants to step up.
Yeah, I got tired of that in year 1. I did that for a few weeks during those Deadpool raids. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. So I've stepped away from that.
If you just don't have anybody stepping up to take over when other people want to step down.
I don't want to do it. I'm glad there are people that do want to do that, though. All right, a Beta Ray Bill, top player in the game. What is your big concern that you would want to see personally fixed next week when you meet with the devs? What kind of outcome would you want to see as a result of that meeting?
I think we've touched on a number of them with the cookie cutter approach, or the lack of theory crafting is a huge one. Many of us come here because we want to have that flexibility. And I think for me, I always talk to people about the way Scopely tends to do things is very much like a pendulum. So we go from one side where I know with Dark Dimension 5, there was a lot of concern with, people were given traits of characters that they could bring in, and sometimes people would not bring in the best choices because it was the cheap choice, doesn't necessarily make it the best choice. So, I have a former alliance mate that I remember brought in Aim Assaulter as one of his characters, which was just garbage in there. But it allowed him to get through. So
he made that choice, right? Scopely didn't make that choice for him. He made that choice, which is great.
Absolutely. But the thing is, and I understand it, is that there was a lot of frustration and complaints that came to Scopely. And so as a reaction to that, and this is why I think a players' council would really help stave this off, is as a reaction to that, they said, okay, we're not going to do it that way for the apocalypse process. What we're going to do is we're going to flip it the other direction, and we're basically going to say, okay, these are the 23 characters you must build in order to unlock apocalypse. Well, that was obviously
great because they're returning to the other methods now.
Right. Well, and so now we're all sitting here, especially those that have unlocked apocalypse. We're all sitting here staring at each other with the same top 23 characters. Going, you go into Alliance Wars and you see these squads. You're like, oh, look, another 2 million Darkhold or whatever. And so the thing is this has been the mode for a long time. They're either, we're either too defense heavy in wars or we're too offense heavy, or there's got to be a fulcrum point somewhere in the middle. It's not going to always be dead center, but at least a lot closer to middle than these two extremes. And so I'd like to see us be able to help them get to that process where they're not reactionary, where they're not, swinging so far extremes, because I think that's really where we're pissing off people or frustrating the player base.
That's a good point. If everybody gets what they want, then the game's gonna be horrible. We got to have some balance, and I like that you guys are creating that with this. Everybody getting involved. F-Dog, final thoughts before we wrap this thing up.
So the final thing I want to say is that next week we will still, even though things are going well, keep with doing what we're doing, which is, putting it out to the community. And one of the things we really want to accomplish on a positive sense is the hashtag movement, to show Scopely that the community is behind it. And I just want to ask everyone to join the server and to participate in the hashtag movement, which will be from this Monday until the following Sunday. Just
What
to
is
show
what is the
support.
hashtag you guys are using for this?
We're just gonna. What we've done in the past is we just put hashtag MSF PV.
Okay.
So, and behind after the alliance name, and
Gotcha.
it's just showing support for
Okay.
the movement and the document.
Yeah, get more of these hashtags out. Any final thoughts, Sevi, before we wrap this thing up?
The hashtag movement is really important. That's going to show all of the people that we have supporting this. So as many alliances that can participate. This is not all about the top 100, although the top 100 does help for the visibility. You know, we want to see everybody from top 100 down to, I don't even know what the end of the alliance numbers are, 3,000 now, maybe 2,500. We want to see everybody participating in that.
And they
All right.
see all of that in their metrics, even though we don't see it. So it
Yeah,
helps.
they did ask us about that last time we did it. We got a couple DMs from them, even though we told them it was happening. They're like, hey, so what's going on with this?
I guess not everybody read the letter accurately. All right, Beta Red Bell, what do you want to see come out of the meeting next week?
I think one of the things that would be important to come out of that specifically is that that's not an end of a road. And so
Yeah.
that that's a beginning of a process. Again, I'm not expecting results overnight. There's obviously a couple things that they could probably get some quick victories on, but just that there's a continual engagement process, and that it's not, you know, months between these things, that we're actually engaged on an ongoing basis, weekly or bi-weekly or some methodology like that, and that we start to steer this ship. You know, I was using this example yesterday on a cruise ship. If you just alter the rudder 1 degree, you know, you're starting out in Florida, that 1 degree can make the difference between you ending up in New York or in Europe.
Yeah.
And so even just the smallest little change can have impact here. And so I'm hoping to see that. And I encourage the people, like Ev was saying, come join the server, but also I know people often, I'll see comments often from people like, you know, oh, we've tried this before, why bother? You know, that I think you keep trying until you basically say, I'm done playing, because otherwise, what's the point in playing still? There's no point in giving up.
Hopefully, we bring the fun back. Hopefully, you guys convince the devs to bring the fun back in Marvel Strike Force. And Scopely, the player's voice movement is not going away anytime soon, even if the results are positive. And that, I think, is a big change, a big positive difference from some of the previous movements. Guys, the links for the server, the links for the document is going to be down below, so check that out if you want to. The devs are getting the document today, and the media is going down next week, so it's hopefully some positive things from all that. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this gives you a little more hope for what is coming in the future for Marvel Strike Force. But that is it. Have a great rest of your day. If you haven't checked out some of the other videos, check them out, and I'll see you guys next time. Hulk fist bump. ValleyFlyin out.